because we are all different, even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Ginger Tea drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, today we are marking the very first half of this week of February, of course being Wednesday, 8th of the same month, 2023. Good morning. Welcome once again here, ready to wake up and start up your day with the entire Good Morning Uganda team. Women Crash Wednesday as well. This is again usually one of my most love days because I would love to know who is crashing on who, and probably you would love to know who I am crashing on. Well, I am Philomena Mastiko this morning, and we are back at it again, the same grind. Good morning Uganda, knowing what's happening around you. Well, I do have Mollen, I have Robert, I do have Felix with me this morning. I will just start with Uncle Felix. Good morning. How are you doing? Happy Wednesday. Who are we crashing on this Wednesday, Felix?
Good morning, Philo. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
How's your night?
It was good.
Isn't it a good day?
It is a good day.
Is it because you're crashing on women, or well, because it's probably fast tracking towards the end of the week?
You know,
there's nothing to look.
There's nothing to look forward to. I will tell you. So I am living day by day.
As
so
it comes, yeah.
As it comes, really, there is nothing to look forward to.
That makes it for all of us lately. We just sort of like swimming through every day as it comes. But it is another beautiful day. Of course, we do bless God for the gift of life. Every other day you wake up happy, healthy, and definitely able to do the things you plan to do. It's so fulfilling. Yesterday I was somewhere and I listened to this song they did for Paul Walker. Is it called? The guy who used to do Fast and Furious.
Yes.
And while I was trying to do whatever I was doing there, and I sort of like thought in my heart, how many things had he planned out for? Like the movies he was booked on, the promos, the adverts and all these things. And indeed, that did come to satisfying the said fact that the place that is most full of riches is the cemetery or the graveyard. In Uganda, probably Ebija. That's where you find the wealthiest dreams that never came to life. The wealthiest artistry that didn't ever get to see, and that gets you to think if people like radio would still be alive. You can imagine how many songs they would have done for us. The likes of AK-47, the likes of very many, the polka pharaohs of this world, the Ham Anniversary Day, just to mention but a few, the likes of Michael Jackson. So, you had better live your life.
Yes.
Full and large. Do the things you want to do, enjoy the things you want to enjoy, be happy when you have to, make everyone smile around you so they'll have fun and beautiful memories. I think that's key. And,
and enjoy responsibly, though.
Well, responsibly is relative, depending on who is seeing.
Yes.
Yeah, like we have had this conversation here before on how some people want to become other post-class monitors about their lives. So I don't want to talk about, you know, people.
Class monitors and class monitors.
Yeah, people tend not to. people tend to attack the things they don't understand. Like they'll start talking about what you said in video because you don't understand. Like, be in your space. Some of us are bold people. We have no option. So, and then you beef with people who do their books.
I feel like this person is going to someone specific.
No. Let's just leave it at that. But anyway, happy Wednesday. Do you want me to tell you who I'm crushing on?
Yes, I am. I would love
today I'll crush on you.
Ah.
Since you are, yeah, you're my person today.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to be crushed on. By the way, it's a wonderful thing. It shows that people appreciate the efforts you're doing, the work you're putting in. So, I am very happy to be Felix's crush this morning. Mollen, good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you. And well, it's midweek. I don't know. Usually this is like it's a day that is quite lousy.
Yes.
It is yeah. It's just
you're in between.
You're
it's
in
like
between.
The gray zone of the week.
Yeah, because
yes.
you can't even, you know, the week is still quite. I don't know about Wednesday, but it feels really, you know, lazy. Anyway, Felix talked about people minding their business. I think this is something I'm also concerned about. I want to add. Unfortunately, I want to add on that. Like, people would want to, you know, monitor your life, know what is going on, and at the same time they are critiquing. And usually it's not that positive critiquing. People who try minding our businesses don't do any positive critiquing. They just look at the things they feel you should be doing, but the ones that you do and they appreciate, they never say it out. They never even talk about it in the circles they talk about. So you'll go ahead and win, and they wouldn't even want to bring it up because they feel like that will be giving you credit. And supposedly, some of these people are your friends, by the way. They are close to you. Probably not in terms of friends, but they are close to you. So you wonder whether people are always around us. Do they want to see us win, or they want to see us in the same space? Like, okay, this is a normal person we know. That's the Mollen we know. But the moment you take a step, then that is something that they will look at the negative side of it. You know, like sometimes you do something and they're like, like they're just looking for, they're sitting back and waiting for when you fail.
Well, actually not
weird.
surprisingly, I was reading a certain article yesterday and looking at some of the depression cases and all of that in that docket. And it says, you know, there is positive criticism, but then there was something that was being talked about, negative criticism, how it's becoming quite a cause lately, throwing people in certain depths of a depression, negative criticism that doesn't help people to grow. So clearly, when you talk about some of these things, you find people questioning what they're doing every day because of the negative criticism. And this can be really picked from anywhere. Sadly, from the people who you surround yourself with, like you did point out, Mollen,
and
friends,
most
your
times,
family,
even when they
sad.
have ideas on something you're doing and they feel like, okay, probably this is not how she should do it, even when they have ideas, they would rather keep it to themselves or say it in the circles where you're not, instead of bringing it to you. They would be like, I wish you thought of doing this business in such a particular place. But anyway, let's wait and see. When she fails, she will know what to do. Like, why not just, you know, be open and honest about it? And like, you know what, look, I want you to go this high. I think you should look at this kind of marketing space or whatever. But they will sit back and wait for things to go south, and then that's when they will be laughing like, you see, I told you guys so, it's coming to you. And then some of them will want to do it better than you. They'll be like, okay, so they came up with this. You know, I think we could actually do it better, so let's just do it. We don't even have to inform her about it or him about it. So I feel like the people that surround us, and it's no wonder that it's also related to mental issues, because sometimes these are the people that throw you into depression and you feel like you don't have support. Yet actually, they will show supporting smiles, supporting faces. You would never see it coming, I'm telling you.
Well, I will tell you, people who may genuinely be having smiles on their faces right now, these are the police officers after Parliament approved their pay rise. For a minute now, I wish I was a police officer. But hey, it is what it is. Robert, good morning. Well, I just...
these are the guys with the money.
Okay. No, but I'm happy for them, though.
Sure?
I am happy for them.
It's good to be happy for them, because really
I'm taking
those people do so
You
much
can't do that.
for us, and they've been earning. But I find it unfair for someone to want to benefit now. Why didn't you go before? But anyway, that's okay. However, I just want to cheer
Better
up
than
Philo this
Mujiraba.
Wednesday. And there's a song I want to sing for her. Just a chorus.
Just talk the song.
Oh my
One
God.
day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking of you. You know that song?
I know it.
Okay, I was
One day
worried.
at a
Why am I doing
I
this
was
under the
worried.
spotlight? I am just happy.
You know, I
for
learned sometimes that I just have to learn to live one day at a time. I just say one day at a time, that's all I'm asking from you. Teach me to live one day at a time. Well, we have the British sports commentator who is in the country.
Yes.
And I liked the way this person praised Uganda and how it's beautiful. The people, that is Rob Walker. Yeah, the man who, the Olympics, when we were winning that gold, talked about Uganda, the source of the Nile and all that, then gifted. And I enjoyed how he was praising this country and how happy the people are, most of the children. And indeed I said, yes, Ugandans are the happiest people in East Africa. But away from that, as you're still happy about that, police. I didn't know that being a spokesperson is a very hard job. I saw my colleague Enanga yesterday trying to explain the death of this man in Kasese who died in police custody.
Yes.
When he said, the 70-year-old, when he said he slid in a bathroom. I don't know. He slid in a bathroom. Then he was, then he went to
What a
politicians. I don't know which bathroom that is. Those are bathrooms that kill. I'm told they must have tiles and they must. So I wonder how people who's
Because of his age, at 75, you know.
Dude, come on.
then he comes
Mollen,
to the
seriously?
arrest, then he comes. Every day I pray for you, Mr.
Yeah, 75 are not die.
May the good Lord continue strengthening you and give you knowledge and wisdom as you carry out your job. Indeed, it's not an easy one.
Absolutely.
For you.
And you know, sometimes.
But I haven't said who I'm crushing on. I'm crushing on all young female nurses.
Oh, okay. Why?
You know, you fall sick and the person who comes to inject you, most of the likes of Felix who are aging. You know, so you're like, you know, maybe they have to examine you and they are young, they have the zeal to work. Now an old man like Felix
I
is
think
told
Felix
remove
has
your
really
shirt.
a lot to be dealing with right now. He's
Yeah.
dealing with people talking about his
Yeah,
hair.
you have,
And let me
you
tell you
have to
something.
undress
See what
for this
Robert is
young
doing is what I was
nurse
talking about earlier and what Mollen said. Now there are people in our life who have taken it upon themselves to make sure we are never happy. And I like one of the statements of, and actually funny enough, yesterday evening I was meditating about, I was taking some about personalities and I landed myself on the likes of WHT Charles Peter Mayiga, the Katikiro of Uganda. And I went through a couple of his comments and one of them that was quite beautiful is when he said, and I like the way he laughs, he has this, I don't know if it's an arrogant, sarcastic laugh. It's quite an authoritative one when he was saying, and that's the same thing. As long as, and this is not even about Robert, it's just about the same thing we're talking about.
All different, even according
About how people bring people down with words, and then Philo did bring the aspect of mental health. Sometimes it takes you to know who you are to survive these people. Even when they say you're aging, and you know you're not aging.
Close friends and usually
Regardless, whatever, even when they're your children,
in your
they can even be
circle.
parents, because not that all parents say the right things. You just have to know who you are. So don't worry, we shall live with such people
But
who
Philo,
think.
there's one thing that is bothering my mind. I thought women were the ones bothered about their age, but recently I've come to learn that even men don't want to be told that they are old.
To tell you what, age is a
I
blessing.
thought it was
Age is a blessing. Age is a blessing, but
Anyway, we can talk about age, but I think age is, I mean, it's a reality we cannot run away from.
one day we are
from.
going to have here
So-
our birth certificate. You'll be shocked, all of you. You'll have
How
to
did we
shake
get
your
to
life.
that? How did we get to that?
Anyway, away from all the banter and also for just a minute, I don't know if you followed up about what's happening in Turkey. the Turkey-Syria earthquake, the Turkish president did declare a state of emergency as the death toll has surpassed 51,000 people. This is very, very sad, and it has become a global issue of global concern. So we are here following up and seeing what's going to be happening next. But of course, our sincere condolences go out to these families.
When some things happen, you praise God.
You praise God and get to appreciate what you have.
Yes. To give glory and honor to God. But we do send our hearts to the people of Turkey, the community in Uganda,
yes,
who have lost their loved ones, and entirely a nation, that we are with you in prayer, and that's all we can do. We just pray to Almighty Allah to pass really the condolences to them and make them go through this period. It's a very painful period. When you talk about death, everyone deals with it differently.
I know.
But it is what it is. What do you do about that? But also something quite beautiful, Philo. We did see yesterday about the New York, was it Bulls? You call New York Bulls.
The Bulls,
yeah, the Red Bulls did come out to mention Ibrahim Sekaja as their head coach.
Yes.
One of the Ugandan seasoned footballers, one of the best complete defenders we have had in Uganda Cranes.
When you say complete?
No, complete in terms of manners, in terms of skill, in terms of leadership. The time he was captain of Uganda Cranes, trust me, some of you have never heard him say anything, and he's not. I mean, he's not
we've
dumb,
had the
by
name,
the way.
and
yeah, he's not all over.
A couple of times for
many times
for analysis, sports analysis.
But
I think during
he's
World Cup. Yeah.
So that guy is a man of his own. Trust me. Just go read about him. You'll be surprised about who he is. But we're happy for him. We celebrate him. He's one of those few Ugandans who have broken the chains of limitations. A person you can imagine, a man from Masaka now heading one of the best teams in the league in the USA. No. I think that's something worthy. Actually, at some point he trained. Did he play with Thierry Henry by then, or he was, I think, already assistant coach? One of the two, I think, but he shared a pitch with the likes of Thierry Henry, the David Beckhams. He's been at it, and we just pray that all this goes well to him. And I hope the people in charge of sports in this country get down on their high horses of little arrogance and learn something from what's happening around the world.
Very little and non-beneficial arrogance.
They should have a lot to learn.
Well, while we are at it, also speaking in terms of trade, you know that we'll be having the Uganda South African Tourism and Investment Summit that will be held in Pretoria come 28th of February 2023. Now, this is quite a very big deal for us Ugandans. But of course, while addressing and talking about it, it has come to a realization that low product value has been blamed for the increasing trade imbalance between Uganda and several continental trade partners such as South Africa. And I mean, this one really hit home. Looking at the product value, that it's not even just South Africa, to even other countries. The other day we were having scuffles between Kenya and Uganda, taking our products to Kenya, to the Kenyan market. Of course, among other issues, the quality was questionable. What are we not doing?
Well, first, I think we are not guiding the private sector very well. We are so excited at a time of value addition, which is the phase where the country is heading to, because we are used to selling things in their raw form as a country. Now, very many Ugandans are moving into value addition and coming up with finished products. Now, we believe we are at this stage, and we may not be very stringent on standards, because you'll find that you have quite a number of things actually being manufactured here. They are best for Ugandan standard. Yes. They may not go for international standard as term as export, but we do take them. Now, when they reach times of proper scrutiny, they may not qualify. That's the only problem.
But now that also brings a question. Does that mean that even the domestic market here, the Ugandan market, we are consuming low quality products?
They may not be low quality products, but I think the gauge is quite high when it comes to what is required for international standards. For example, there could be many drinks we are consuming today, of which these drinks, if they are taken on foreign market, they may not make it because they have not been certified through the various institutions that satisfy these drinks. There could be so much that we are manufacturing here. So Whereas when you look at a country like Kenya, when you look at a country like South Africa, these are countries that have had some industrialization for some good time and value addition, and they have got, you know, with products, you'll find that there are many international bodies that certify certain products, and our people may need to go for them to get their products certified because of what they require. They may require a very big lab, complicated lab, whereas our UNBS will look at, is this safe? Does it have harmful this? Then they'll say it can go, but then they'll go far as checking expiry dates and a lot of such ways that they have to certify them. Our investors may not go there.
Yes.
So when you put them...
Then that whole chain also frustrating to people who are starting businesses, because you look at that whole process through the verification up to the certification, then you also have URA coming in. Sometimes it really frustrates, especially small businesses. But also I think as Ugandans or as East Africa, we have to take advantage of the trade initiatives that are out there. And one thing that I think entrepreneurs should be considering right now is you look at spaces like the African Free Continental Trade Area. That is the one space that has been created for at least most of the African businesses, small scale and medium scale, to be able to, they are involved in, and at least there are initiatives, there is especially the marketing part of it. So even when you talk about value addition, but it's important that you realize that you could have a broader spectrum, especially in terms of exports. With our certification here, with all the verification that has been done, you could actually have your products across Africa, and that is what the free trade area has been created for. So I think it's also people who have not taken advantage of those initiatives out there. Otherwise, we do have markets, and the certification has actually been made easier through the processes that we have here in Uganda. Well, so I think it's just for us to grab and be able to realize that these products could actually go beyond Uganda.
And I totally agree with you, Mollen. Even just like the experts who are encouraging for standardization, increase in addition value, scaling, all these are very key components to make sure we have a very smooth and seamless chain when it comes to promoting our products just outside of our Ugandan boundaries. Well, we could go on and on and on, but there is also quite a lot of other stories we need to touch. The local stories and some more international stories. Robert, what do you have this morning?
Well, the Turkey earthquake, where we see President Museveni is deeply concerned and saddened by the death of people and the loss of lives in the Turkey and Syria following the devastating earthquake that claimed over 4,000 lives. In a tweet message, President Museveni wrote that Ugandans are with the families who lost their loved ones.
Now, the Court of Appeal has commenced the hearing process for the matter where 19 women under their umbrella body, Women for Peace, are seeking compensation after claiming to have been beaten by state operatives. Now, this follows dismissal of the civil suit against the state operatives where they cited torture and brutality inflicted on them during demonstrations marched to the Electoral Commission in Kampala.
And moving on, police have rescued 59 victims from the ADF cell in Butaleja district. The police spokesperson, Fred Enanga, confirmed the arrest of 9 ADF suspects during this intelligence-led operation where several guns were recovered. Rescued victims include juveniles who are recruited into tourism activities from different regions of the country, promising them scholarships and jobs abroad. Police have embarked on the process of reuniting the victims with their families and the intent to investigate family connection to the ADF.
Now, the National Unity Platform opposition political party did come out to make support of the Alliance for National Performance candidate Ali Salaso in the Serere Member of Parliament by-election. The new spokesperson, Joel Senyonyi, says NUP had 2 candidates who expressed interest in the election, but they are promoting the strategy of united forces of change to come together as the opposition.
Crossing over to some of the international stories. Rescuers in Turkey and Syria battled bitter cold Tuesday in a race against time to find survivors under buildings flattened by an earthquake that killed more than 7,800 people. Tremors that inflicted more suffering on a border area already plagued by conflict left people on the streets burning debris to try to stay warm as international aid began to arrive. United States President Joe Biden is delivering his first major speech to a divided Congress after Republicans took control of the House of Representatives. Biden urges Republican friends to work with him. Presidents are required to deliver the State of the Union address every single year.
The news, at least 15 Nigerian Muslim pilgrims on their way to Senegal were killed when gunmen in Burkina Faso attacked the buses transporting them, Nigeria's presidency said on Monday. President Muhammadu Buhari has received the tragic news of the murder, the State House said in a statement without providing further details on the attack. The pilgrims were on their way to the religious ceremony in Senegal from Niger to Nigeria, a trip that involves crossing conflict hotspots in northern Burkina Faso and central Mali. So far, the death toll stood at 15, according to the Nigerian presidency spokesperson. And in climate news, attacks on humans by carnivorous animals has increased steadily since 1950 as growing human population in new areas make such incidents as more common, according to a study published last week. According to the other experts, climate change may also be contributing to the increased human-wildlife conflict. The report, which includes 33 contributors, was published in the peer-reviewed journal, indicating a span of 70 years, and the collected attack incidences were compiled from personal data sets, published literature, and news reports.
Well, looking at more stories, our dailies, the New Vision first. The front page, Parliament approves pay rise for police officers. Of course, increment to address high cost of living. Museveni sends condolence to Turkey and over 5,000 dead. Looking at the NSSF still stuck with 57 billion Uganda shillings unknown service cash. Very many questions. YUN Human Rights Office was suspended, and there is a eulogy for Katimbo, who was the face of Chikubo. All of that in the New Vision this morning.
Now, of course, Philo, in the Daily Monitor, we're looking at how MPs plan to regulate fees. Get your paper, self a copy, and you'll be knowing what the plan is and which fees they want to regulate. But also, government terminates UN human rights operations, and kitchen designs, errors, and how to fix them. But probably this one is big for Bob. Why police have changed breed of sniffer dogs. Which ones did they have changed to what? That's all in the papers. And of course, also, O-level results to be released tomorrow. Okay. Another sad day. Trust me. Trust me. Like, that's the thing. What the hell is going on in this country?
Now children by choice, not chance.
So, know when to zip your zips. Police NDA sees fake drugs from Pastor Kayanja's church. Okay. National Drug Authority officials said the drug contained harmful chemicals like Dizon, fapronil, benzidine, and other chemicals.
Well, we could go on and on, but I really love the stories that are coming out in these papers. The times are getting harder. Never let us rest. Anyway, this is Good Morning Uganda, and of course your contribution is very key to know what you're thinking. And this morning's poll question, when it comes to human rights, how best can human rights be appreciated by different stakeholders in Uganda? How best can human rights be appreciated by different stakeholders in Uganda? Hashtag UBCGMU 0709602592 is is the WhatsApp number. Go on, let us know how we can get to the maximum perfection of this whole concept of human rights. We'll go for a break. When we get back, of course, we'll be having quite a conversation about the same whole question. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is
To each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Hallelujah Ginger Tea drink and Hallelujah Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, today we are marking the very first half of this week of February, of course being Wednesday, 8th of the same month, 2023. Good morning. Welcome once again here, ready to wake up and start up your day with the entire Good Morning Uganda team. Women Crush Wednesday as well. This is again usually one of my most love days, because I would love to know who is crushing on who, and probably you would love to know who I am crushing on. Well, I am Philomena Mastiko this morning, and we are back at it again, the same grind. Good morning Uganda, knowing what's happening around you. Well, I do have Mollen, I have Robert, I do have Felix with me this morning. I will just start with Uncle Felix. Good morning. How are you doing? Happy Wednesday. Who are we crushing on this Wednesday, Felix?
Good morning, Philo. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
How's your night?
It was good.
Isn't it a good day?
It is a good day.
Is it because you're crushing on women, or because it's probably fast tracking towards the end of the week?
You know,
there's nothing to look.
There is nothing to look forward to. I will tell you so. I am living day by day.
As
so
it comes, yeah.
As it comes, really, there is nothing to look forward to.
That makes it for all of us lately. We just sort of like swimming through every day as it comes. But it is another beautiful day. Of course, we do bless God for the gift of life. Every other day you wake up happy, healthy, and definitely able to do the things you plan to do. It's so fulfilling. Yesterday I was somewhere and I listened to this song they did for Paul Walker. Is it called? The guy who used to do Fast and Furious.
Yes.
And while I was trying to do whatever I was doing there, and I sort of like thought in my heart, how many things had he planned out for?
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
Don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
That's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak Luo.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's Good Morning Uganda, 5 minutes past 7 a.m. and 8th of February 2022, Wednesday. Welcome to the newsreel. Philomena Mastiko is my name. Of course, I am in the company of the gentleman, Mr. Council, Felix Nkunda. And some other titles I could not mention. I thought you were going to add
Bob's titles. The old man.
Well,
but I have a few grey hair in my beard.
Oh, but you know, grey hair is actually a sign of many things.
For
These
example?
days, I don't buy into grey hair being a sign of old age. I mean, we have seen children who are
It's a sign of many things. I would want to hear at least two of them.
One, it could just be a genetic kind of thing.
Not mine. That
Number
one
two
passed.
could be stress. I mean,
Pass as well.
Number three, it could be.
I don't know why I crashed on you, Phil. Today you are.
Number three could be you're actually happy, yeah, and
that one is forged. It's not research.
Anyway, that's why I cannot back it up with science. I have to decline it. But it's not just age, but also grey hair is good. It's a good thing.
You
so
want
if you
some?
have some grey,
Since it's good, you
respond to that. Anyway, today's discussion, very key, very important. And as Ugandans, we have lost probably the translation of the word human rights. And it could be Ugandans as the ordinary person, but also Ugandans as the stakeholders. And this morning, obviously, we're going to be talking about appreciation of human rights. Is it a myth or a possible reality? A very important question here.
That sounds like a research topic.
Oh, wow. So, yes, human rights, you as a Ugandan, and I don't know whether we should even curtail it to here, Uganda or globally, because, I mean, I've seen very many people walk into these streets demonstrating, and not just here in Uganda, even when you look at some of these some of these other countries, protesting our human rights are being violated. So is this a realistic concept that we can achieve, or it's just a myth, it's just there and probably it will always be? Now you can be part of this conversation, get into our socials where we actually do ask how can human rights be appreciated by different stakeholders in Uganda. How best can human rights be appreciated by different stakeholders in Uganda? Hashtag UBCGMU. Get into our WhatsApp 0709602592. I don't know, Felix, me talking about your gray hairs, if it's a violation of your human rights.
No,
I don't know.
Not coming from you.
Not coming from
you.
you.
You are.
Yeah, so I am free. I can say that. And I'm unsafe.
You are allowed.
But let's start from there. Human rights, Felix. Is it a myth?
Wow.
Or it's actually something we can really, have?
You know, the times you have had discussions about human rights are quite many. But that shows you how important it is to be discussed, or rather how important it is as a realization that must be later on fulfilled by every mandated institution. And of course, clearly at the bigger picture being government. Maybe we can start by the simple definition, or the literal one. As I said, I'll say again, it's simply an appreciation of what is given by virtue of being human.
Yes.
How you appreciate that. Anything that brings you to feel less of a human being would be a violation of that. Nevertheless, when you come to human rights, some will be clustered under the negligence of being core, others quite persuasive. And those may entail the right to freedom, which differ the various freedoms which can be enjoyed, the freedom of speech, freedom to assemble. Those ones are appreciated given the various jurisdictions and societies. But generally, human rights are a universal appreciation, because there is not a difference between a human body in Uganda and a human body in US, in Switzerland, in Australia, in Scotland, or anywhere in the world. So it is just about appreciating the values that come with being human. Human life is human life. It is only us people who have put in place the aspects of shades of color, black, what.
Yes.
When people come to say Black Lives Matter, then you ask the question, which lives
don't matter? Yes.
Do white lives, all this. So, but generally, that's why also you can bring the aspect of universality of human rights. But speaking about the context of human rights, and taking a case study of Uganda as a jurisdiction or a sovereign, there's a lot to discuss. You may want to look at it legally, and yesterday I saw you hosted the chairperson of the commission.
Commission, yes.
And if you're interested to look at the entire chapter 4 of our constitution, you will be amazed that it was cut out specifically, particularly to address and help maintain the existence of human rights in Uganda.
Yes.
And therein you'll find various rights that should be appreciated, which stretch from the right to life, later on, to expression, speech, just to mention but a few. And that's where you find things like education, which we were talking about, I think, the other day. So, one, the starting point is that Uganda, as a sovereign country, takes cognizance, legal cognizance, of the existence and the need to uphold, respect, and later on protect human rights. That's the beginning of the discussion.
Yes.
That as a country, they felt the need that these rights should be put in a law for one, recognition, two, observation, and three, enforce in the event that there's abuse of the same. So that's the first step for us to accept. Because it would be a different case if Uganda does not take cognizance of the existence of such rights.
Yes.
So our constitution does that. And given the fact that we believe and trust that the constitution, where it be in existence, it gives deliberate appreciation and cognizance, true cognizance, legally, that it is the major binding law of the land. Yes. And anything contrary to that, I think that's under section Article 2 of the Constitution, that anything contrary to that, it is null and void to that extent. So if there's any other law that is passed or that is enacted that contravenes any provision of Chapter 4 of the Constitution, it is null and void and is not enforceable to the extent it contravenes the Chapter 4 of the Constitution. And that's why you've seen some laws, some cases. Most recently, you remember the case of the computer misuse,
yes,
by my good friend, that is Karamaji, Council Karamaji, who, when he took on challenging the constitutionality of provisions that limit the right to expression, and the court accepted. So that's what I'm saying, that some provisions of any other law will not be allowed if they contravene these human rights articles or any appreciations in the Constitution. You've seen one, I can give many cases. There's a case of FIDA Uganda versus the Attorney General about the Sebei issue. Is it women genital mutilation?
Yes.
There was that case. You come to the various provisions of the POMA that have been challenged in court in relation to Chapter 4. I've given you one of the cases, Karamaji versus the Attorney General, the same. And I can say many and many and many and many. So that's one of the, I'm trying to bring out the aspect of the legal recognition of the human rights in Uganda. So when you ask whether it's a myth or a reality we should face, I'm trying to bring to life the fact that this is a reality, because it is legally provided for, and there have been various legal discussions in relation to that, and some of them have succeeded. Most recent ruling is what, scholarly ruling actually, for us, is that of Karamaji. Now, there is the biggest contestation that brings in, again, now as I told you, we are dealing with like a research question, trying to get the other side of the reality we have answered, yes, because of the existence. But when you come to the other bitter reality that brings manifestation of how human rights have become a myth, is the clash between three things. One, political expectation, political assertion, and that I will say in capital and bold.
This political expectation coming in from who exactly? The politicians?
Political players,
or
of course.
Yeah,
political players. Because between you and me, if you want to also look at the dynamics of political science, they teach us that every man is a political animal. And I laugh at people who say, they shouldn't be a politics. At the end of the day,
yes.
Every man is a political animal. At some point,
yes,
it will clash
at your
with you.
level, at your own level.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, political expectation, political assertion, and political maintenance. Those are the things that have caused the iota of human rights becoming a myth. It has not much to do with other aspects, but the bigger version is about the clash between politics and how politics stays, or politicians stay relevant, how they assert their relevancy, and how they maintain their relevancy. That's where the clash comes in to bring in the myths about human rights. Now, you've heard many times, it is on a very, very small scale you hear cases of human rights abuse against individuals.
Yes.
If there are any. That you'll hear them in very, not, I won't say small claims, but quite not amplified claims. You'll hear like assault, you'll hear, you've not had many cases about individuals torturing individuals, yet they could be there. As a matter of fact, we have heard about kidnaps and all these things. But the bigger spectrum, and this is global, when you hear the cases of the Bermuda Triangle, you heard what was in Benghazi.
Yes.
You saw what was in Libya. You've heard what was in Iran, Iraq, the Middle East. You saw the likes of the Khashoggi cases. There is a connotation of state. Now, where you see the aspect of state in play, there is politics. Now, it either manifests in the three folds I've talked about: expectation, assertion, and maintenance. Political expectation, political assertion, and political maintenance.
Driving to the beat of
that's what always causes
yes.
the clash with human rights. Now, even, and this is about, not about the people actually in charge of the politics of a sovereign, but even the people on the opposite side of the sovereign are also determined by those three to clash with the other people.
Okay.
For example, you've heard that on the most, what has happened on the, what's most seen lately, the victims of human rights abuse, many of them are political victims. That's what I'm saying, and it lies on both sides. I'll give you an example. Most recent, we saw the National Unity Platform coming out to give various lists of about people, about their supporters who have been abducted consistently or continuously, allegedly by government. Some of them have been, we thank God, they were identified where they are in lawful detentions and all this and all that. Most of them have been aligned in court as the report came out.
Yes.
Now, again, there's a political element on the other side. But one of the biggest challenges, people who are in politics, is political maintenance. And that's what brings in the big clash, and I can give you various examples. Why do you think the number of human rights abuse cases rises close to election time, and slightly after election time?
Yes.
There's a lot of alleged human rights abuse because of the various parties. One, bring us back to that thing. They have to ascertain their political position, to see how to maintain their political position, and also to make sure they fulfill their political expectation. So, one of the biggest catastrophes that has happened to human rights universally, by the way,
yes.
and again, I've given you various examples, and I can even give you many that are still happening.
It's not just curtailed here in Uganda.
No, it's not a Ugandan thing. It's a universal challenge that the biggest threat to human rights is political assertion, political expectation, and political maintenance.
I love that you talk about that. There is also one aspect that I would really love us to understand when it comes to democracy. When you look at the human rights normative framework, we are looking at the value of freedom. We are looking at things like respect for human rights, the principle of holding periodic and genuine elections, universal suffrage, and even essential elements of democracy. So if I actually say that democracy is a form, it's a form of government, as a form of government is a benchmark when it comes to human rights protections. Is that right? Is there a relationship between democracy and human rights universally?
Now, the first question will be, what is democracy? When you define democracy, there's this funny definition they used to give us in political science. Yeah, the government for the people, by the people, with the people. There are a lot of by-bys and peoples. But that is all scholarly. But democracy cannot be given a universal definition. And this is the argument I want to bring to you, and that we have consistently brought to the people. You cannot think that democracy can be what people want, and then what given majority. It is not complete that in every jurisdiction or society the majority take the day. That's not, and that's the, now when you ask the question that there's a big relationship between democracy and human rights appreciation and abuse.
Does democracy contribute to both?
Because democracy wipes out minority rights. But then, is that still democracy? Because it wipes
you're
out.
Generalizing them, you're looking at them from the bigger perspective.
You only want the majority.
Yes.
Because simply, literally, democracy is about the majority taking the day. Now, that means you are leaving room for the minority to bring into their contestation in whichever form, given the jurisdiction and what is allowed, which may manifest into protests, civil disobedience, civil activism, just to mention but a few. Now, when you ask whether there's a direct relationship between democracy and human rights abuse, yes. And that much we have seen. I can give you an example. In Uganda here, after elections...
It's a relationship we don't want to fancy?
No! You see, it's just about politicians being political.
Yes.
And I don't blame them. If you're a politician
it's
and
the
not
game.
being
That
political,
is how the
you'll be a
game
fool.
goes, yes.
You don't expect to see a nun as a queen dancer. Definitely you see a nun nga yoza bikompe nga tereza sakristia, because that's, so I can't blame a politician for playing politics. Now, the victimization, political victimization, is a result of democracy. That when the Philomenas take the day, what happens to the Nkundas? The Nkundas will find a way to stay relevant. How? Political activism. What is engulfed in political activism? Strikes, civil disobedience, propaganda, character assassination, and all those ones rub with abuse of human rights. Because there's a minority that is saying, I am on the top, says democracy, by the way, and there's a minority, sorry, there's a majority vis-a-vis a minority, but everyone is fighting for the same space. There's going to be a clash. Now, tell me how democracy is not a funder of abuse of human rights. That's why in some jurisdictions, when they understood the fears, the threats, and the uncertainties that come with democracy, they said, we are not going that way. I can give you a number of them. One, look at the likes of the Great Britain. Where is the democracy in their leadership? Where? I can give you various kingdoms. Why do you think kings are not voted? Go to Swaziland. Why do you think kings are not voted? Now, that is what one of the medicines of dealing with human rights abuse is, that how many cases you find some of the countries that they could have challenges, but the cases of political clashes are very minimal because they found the medicine to democracy. Now, the gift of democracy to third world countries was prima facie, or at the face of it, looked like it was the solution. Because having spent a lot of time in colonization, the black man thought they needed a time to breathe. When they were given the air to breathe, they weren't put in the sky. And that's what we struggle with. A country like Uganda has had how many presidents in a span of 30 years? We had their president even who spent days, a year, 48 months.
Yes. They didn't go as long as a week.
You can imagine? Yes. So that's what I'm saying. But that is all because of democracy. Now, when you ask whether it's directly an effect of human rights, one would say yes, yet the reverse is not true. It is alleged that human rights must be a result of good democracy, upholding democracy. But people will not tell you the reality of the fact that every time there's contestation, and this is even a reality to even people, for example, take an example from the same families, Philomena.
Yes.
There's a moment when disagreements will become heated. And this is natural. But does democracy give room for people to disagree to agree, or to agree to disagree? This is the solution in terms of democracy that you asked. How about we redefine democracy, tailor-made to our knowledge and who we are? What is democracy in the African context can't be democracy in the European or the West world context. It can't be. Why? The levels of civility are totally different. Whereas people will vote on phone in the US and go to bed. A Ugandan will vote physically and stay there. You get the point?
Yes.
Yeah? Whereas in the US, you will vote on your laptop and you go and sleep. In Uganda, you will physically vote.
You'd have to, yes.
And you want to be there looking in the basin. Everyone can.
What's going to happen?
And you want to wait till they count, and you want to lift the, in case it doesn't in your favor, you want to kick the bucket. The people who are paid to kick buckets at polling stations.
Yes.
Do you think we share in the same definition of democracy in these differences? Don't you think we are made differently, or we are at different levels of democracy? Then why should we be appreciating the same kind of democracy?
Well, there is feedback coming in here, Felix, and there is one of our viewers, Tumsime, saying normalizing abductions and torture in the name of protecting some of our political heads should be condemned by all decent heads. Thank you so much, Tumsime. And coming in from Musoke Charles from Nansana, saying that you and I are aware that human rights in Uganda have been violated in many ways. Abductions here and there, detaining political prisoners without fair hearing, journalists being beaten up by security authorities. So all of this clearly shows that human rights are quite something that we are still working on. But I love the fact that he talks about journalists. Looking at the media, I mean, it is assumed or presumed that it has a direct role in ensuring that human rights are actually preserved in any country. But also there is one factor that has been put against the media when it comes to sensationalism, the fact that the influence the media has. I mean, do you think that's also, is it wrong or is it right in its own stead?
But then, Philo, who determines what's sensational?
Well, I guess I can't even tell who.
That's the thing.
Yes.
What you don't want here is sensational.
They believe we have the power to push a different agenda.
What different from
Yes.
what? From what they don't want to hear? That's where the mistake is. It is sensational because it doesn't sound good to you. But the media shouldn't be about sounding good to individuals. It should be for the greater good, because where in the absence of the eyes the fourth estate sat.
But where is the difference? Okay, where do we draw the line between being objective and also being
the truth,
being sensational about certain topics?
Is a journalist lying? If
Can't
you're talking about abductions,
yes.
no, that's what I'm saying. That's
Yes.
where we draw the line. That's the determinant. If they're abductions and I talk about them, am I lying? You may not want to hear it because probably you are an official of government or yourself, but is it the reality? Truth be told, there have been acknowledgements. We have heard that even institutions have been put on a stance to explain this. The UPDF, the police, the Human Rights Commission. So, where is the lie? There could be, you see, the law must be applicable with undue technicalities. The technicalities can be there in the numbers, but the major subject is that if something is happening,
yes,
the media, it has a greater role. By the way, and this, I wonder why it wasn't made constitutional. The greater role of the media is to be one of the biggest watchdogs for the abuse and upholding of human rights.
Human rights, yes.
Because where we are not, there's a camera.
There should be a cover.
There should
actually,
be.
Yes.
And what he's saying is actually true. I didn't want to basically talk about these cases of abductions because most of them are under investigations. But earlier I touched it and I told you, probably I'll just say it again. Philomena, the biggest contestation that causes abuse of human rights is the clash between the three things I said.
Yes.
Political expectation. In fact, it is a given that some people have put themselves in harm's way to abuse their own human rights to get political assertion. It is a known in third world countries, not only in Uganda. We have people in this country who have been paid to be abducted. In Uganda, they say, you get the point.
Yes.
Because, again, political expectation. However, we also have cases that we have seen our own governments abuse human rights. A number of them. I gave you one of the cases, and I will say it again, in the most famous case of the Black Mamba case, where we saw the rearrest of a presidential candidate in the chambers of court, where bail was granted. And not once, not twice. You have seen that in a couple of cases. Those are challenges, but again, they manifest because of the political clashes. You get the point?
Yes.
And the challenge also comes in with, because of our very fragile security and regional insecurity, sometimes governments are forced to do or to abuse human rights for the greater good. So they have said. Sometimes they have said some people are rearrested, purposes of security.
Yes.
And that you can't question, that's classified. But we go with belief. What do you do? So all these things will end at one point, political clash, but later on, what you also brought in was democracy.
Yes.
Universality of human rights, if I may touch it as you brought it in earlier, is the fact that we appreciate human rights at a general standard without isolation of jurisdiction. As I told you, what's a right in US may be a right in Uganda.
Yes.
And I'm using the word maybe for those that are quite core aspects of human rights. But also in different scenarios, the biggest question is, can we uphold the existence of human rights in every situation? That's why even when you go to the right to war, you know that even in war, war is governed by law. There are things you're not allowed to do in war. When you go and read the Geneva Convention, I think of 1959, 58, and the additional protocols to it, they give you when to shoot, when not to shoot, who to shoot. Can you imagine? There are human rights in battle.
Well, Felix, while we are at it, I also need to understand the relevance of some of these international bodies when it comes to advancement of these human rights. I'll make reference again to a story that we did see in the Daily Monitor this morning, where they actually said the government last Friday formally notified that the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, that is the OHCHR, of the decision not to renew the mandate of its office in Kampala beyond its current term. Now, and of course, when you look at this one is a department of the UN Secretariat mandated by the General Assembly to, among others, really prevent human rights violations, secure respect for all human rights, and promote international cooperation, protect human rights, and again streamline the UN system in the field of human rights. Now, where do these international, do they have a limit when it comes to the enactment and also advancement of human rights of any country, considering that they are international bodies? Should they have a limit or shouldn't they have a limit?
Oh, that's a hard one. But I'll look at it in this way.
Because I could say such a thing could be interpreted by two different people and in two different manners. Yes.
But I'll say this, when it comes to human rights and various bodies, lately we have faced a big challenge, and I've seen many heads of state coming out to challenge their modus operandi. And this is well anchored in the fact that there has been a failure to redefine a couple of terms that clash with human rights. One is democracy, as we said earlier. Two is political maintenance. 3 is expectation. The challenging bit is that most of these international organizations have taken it upon themselves to be big brothers in particular areas of their interest.
Yes.
And this has been the biggest clash between them and many African
they're
countries.
choosy where they actually
yeah.
come in and intervene.
Exactly.
Yes.
And at their liberty. Secondly, they have also been seen to support opposition parties in terms of how they come out with their conclusions. That's one of the challenges. For example, and we have had cases. You've seen the NUP. We have seen the head of the party go out there and say all the things he wanted to say about government, and probably some of the reports are based on hearsay.
Yes.
Some of them allegations from government are like that they have not been well researched. They have not had engagements of governments. There's been a challenge in terms of relationship between these agencies and governments, seating governments, and that's been the biggest problem. Nevertheless, there's something called a sovereign, and that many people tend to forget, that every country maintains its sovereign power to make some of the decisions that affect its sovereignty as a state. And that's where it gets mandated to say such statements like, we are halting renewal. Because why do you think when such agencies come, they have to submit their credentials for acceptance from the country? It puts the country at an upper hand because it is the one who's to allow them to come in. Now that means that there are also terms and conditions to their relationship. In the event that any of the party abuses these terms, the relationship could sour. So I think I have seen that some of these organizations have forgotten their place. Sometimes they forget their place and they want to be also political parties or political players or part of the politics.
Part of the politics, like you did say.
And that's what I think there's normally a clash. However, that on the other side gets us to think that if there's this clash, maybe there's something not right also in terms of appreciation of the human rights. We can't totally just shut down what they're saying, but we must have to look into it. Maybe there's a challenge with appreciation of human rights. These discussions have been here again and again. Like yesterday, I think on Friday last week, we saw the Human Rights Commission award various people and direct the Attorney General to compensate them.
Though I think about 5 people.
Yeah, about 5 people. Now, that is
yes.
an acknowledgement that there was actually abuse.
Yes. And they're having the tribunal meetings, sittings that are happening.
Yesterday and probably even today.
Yes.
Now, whatever results that come out and they implict government, it means there's actually abuse. We cannot totally deny that there are actually abuse of human rights. But I think for us, the most important aspect is to know how to deal with these challenges as a state, as a growing state. We rub ourselves on, we step on each other's toes on a daily, politically, economically, but we must not allow some things to become normal. That's a fact. Their mannerisms, their practices, either political, social, economic, cultural, or religious, that we cannot allow to become a normal behavior in the country. And that's where we see people raising red flags in the media, political parties. When we have had how many discussions, the Speaker, the Leader of Opposition, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Security, Minister of Defense, about these abductions. I've seen the Honorable Robin Nabanja in these meetings, the Honorable Jim Mwezi, I've seen Anita Amoya, the Speaker, I've seen the Honorable Matthias Impuga engaging. And this is what we are talking about, that the fact that people are going to sit, there's a realization we have to deal with.
That there is an issue at hand.
We must validate a sane country henceforth. We can accept that we have fallen short in some areas in terms of human rights. That's a matter of fact. And that's why people should, you see, one of the biggest indicators of political growth is reconciliation and negotiation and dialogue. those are the evidences of political growth and maturity. Once we open spaces for dialogue, we shall deal with these things. As I told you, petition was taken to the Uganda Human Rights Commission, and they were challenged to act on their mandate, constitutional mandate, and they came with some results.
Yes.
Out of, I think, a number of over 10, they were able to prove about 7 or something that where they are. Now, that's what we want. That where we raise a red flag, let's not be dismissive as a country or as an institution. Let us open and leave room for dialogue. Abuse of human rights is not so far from any of us. We always step on each other's toes. We may say something you don't want to hear even on air. But why would I be on air afraid that if I don't say something, if I say something that Phil doesn't want to hear, someone will probably, there's a drone, like that can't be the notion for us to work around in a civil country. You get the point?
At the end of the day, we are looking at civility, yes.
Because the country is growing so fast. We can't grow in some areas and not in others. So, as a civil and civilized country, we must center our focus on opening room for dialogue to have the right discussions. And I quote, the right discussions. Not every clutter that is all over news internationally. I hear there's a agency somewhere in Sweden that say this. There's a agency in US. No. Relevant, right and purposeful discussions about human rights that will either foster growth of a nation and make everyone secure in a country. We don't have to be on the same page in this country. You get the point? We are more beautiful differently. It is okay for you to be people power, for me to be ANC, I don't know, there are many political parties, DP, what. We must live in the same space. We must agree to disagree without fear of abuse of human rights. And that's where we deserve to be as a country.
Well, clearly, and the poll question this morning, how best can human rights be appreciated by different stakeholders in Uganda? How best can human rights be appreciated by different stakeholders in Uganda? Hashtag UBCGMU, WhatsApp number 0709602592. For now, we need to create room for Mollen to come in with the weather and climate news and also the weather forecast and explain to us why the rain pattern has followed up at 2 p.m. every single day. But in the meantime, looking at the dailies this morning, looking at the Daily Nation and the Citizen, aside from our usual New Vision and Daily Monitor, I will just start off with the Daily Nation. The rogue judge, and of course saying he wanted his stake in land, in his land deal paid in dollars. Well, state out to privatize education, teachers unions warn, and how Kenya Kwanza went on a spending spree after poll win. Of course, cracks widen in Azimio after Ruto State House meeting with Raila MPs. To the Citizen, Bunge Bagamoyo project not a threat to Dar Port, and how cattle urine cup spread of malaria, 10 resolutions to support education in East Africa. We'll be back after the break. Good morning.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Get the most affordable 4G smartphone in Uganda from Airtel. Now heavily discounted from 250,000 shillings to 150,000 shillings only. Yes, 150,000 shillings only to keep you connected to your loved ones.
Dial *175*94# to activate free 1 GB instantly and 100% double data on all weekly and monthly bundles for 3 months. Get one today while stock lasts from the nearest Airtel shop. With Airtel, the smartphone network.
So this receipt, okay, plus this one equals
Keeping up with your transaction history the old way.
1,000. Okay, I got this. I don't. Okay, maybe if I can just.
Keeping up with your transaction history with the My Airtel app. You have the power in your pocket. The power to keep an eye on your transaction history. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda. Once again, my name is Mollen, Kenyena. We'll be taking you through a few of the roads that you should actually be looking out for this morning in terms of traffic. And we'll be looking at mainly the Kampala-Jinja Highway. Now, you look at some of the roads joining in. If you're coming all the way from, that is Entebbe Road, you might want to look out for a little bit of traffic right there. But then again, as you join into the main highway, it looks to be quite some clear traffic right there. But also look at the downer roads leading towards the Jinja Kampala Road. We're looking at Yusufure this morning. It seems to be quite clear. That is one that you can take for this morning. But also as you head over onto Kampala Road, that side looks to be quite clear. That might be quite okay for you to use this morning. We're also looking at more of the roads that are joining in over there. You look at one that has a bit of traffic that is coming in from the 8th Street, and over there you can look at Access Road. That is one that has heavy traffic for this morning, so you might want to avoid that. And also, if you're likely to take a detour via Mkwano Road, there is a bit of traffic, but at least that looks to be moving, so you could choose to use that. But also there is a bit of traffic building up across that roundabout as you head towards the Ginger Lights. That is right there, quite stiff, and it looks like it could take you a while, so you need to be aware and consider that as well. Wampeo Avenue, as you join onto the roundabout, looks to be clear all the way from the Nakawa area. That looks to be quite clear as well, and that is something that could be convenient for you to use for this morning. But away from the traffic, we want to look at what is happening across the world in terms of climate and weather. And this morning we woke up to news of China giving out their first warning about fog. They're worried about the pollution that has been coming up across most cities in China. And this morning we're just looking at more that has just come through across the area. Now, the state has issued a warning that is to the public, but also suspending some of of the activities that is across the city. And of course, looking at the heavy fog warning, they give you some of the footage coming through, as local media was also very concerned across several cities. Now, this is also according to the Chinese meteorological forecasters that did give a warning earlier, asking government to put a warning. Now, this is mainly in the Guangzhou Strait, and that is also to be named as the important economic transport hub, meaning that a lot of transportation has been suspended over there. And you also look at several cities within the nearby area of Guangzhou. You look at the Zhejiang area, which is also known for business, and also the Guangzhou region that has also been suspended business for the next 24 hours. Considering that this fog has been in the area, the visibility is really low. You can't see anything past 200 meters. That has also prompted the Meteorological Service to issue an orange alert and advise for traffic shipping and other departments to take precautions. That started, this whole thing started yesterday, and of course more of the reports coming through are indicating that even the nearby airports have also considered taking down traffic, especially considering that this could last a while. Now, China has already been involved in most of these extreme events. You look at the fact that they have a lot of business centers, and that prompts pollution in terms of industrial processes. So even when you look at the states or the provinces that have been affected by this, are actually where they do a lot of business. Now, there have been a lot of concerns, especially when it comes to China putting up more measures into reducing their emissions into the atmosphere, reducing this pollution or the gases that actually end up bringing all these pollutants in the atmosphere, but they have always not done the necessary precautions. So it is no wonder that they continue having most of these extents when it comes to pollution. And of course now this is disrupting business in one of the biggest economies in the world. That could really have big implications on them. But also we do have more concerning the report coming from Peru about a landslide that is over the area, and so far we know that 15 people have died from this landslide, and of course this was prompted by the heavy flooding across Peru. That is the southern area where we've seen a couple of days with heavy rainfall, and that prompted a landslide over the Arequipa region, which is a center for the recent anti-governmental protest actually across the area. They have also been concerned about climate action recently, and we know that also 20 people have been injured and still 2 missing according to authorities on ground. This was reported just a few hours ago. They're looking at the number of the dead so far rising to 15. That is according to the National Civil Defense Institute that is in the Arequipa region, that is over there, looking to see that they can actually get more people in safer places. Now we know that this has also been a result of the rains that started way earlier on Sunday, and that has kept accumulating. That is something that could actually lead to landslides. And the Meteorology Department did give a warning of the likelihood of this soon as the rain started on Sunday, but evacuations were not done in time, and not to mention people will always stay thinking it will get better, and that is how Peru is looking at most of this. Now this is located close to a river, which is River Kenyena, that actually also contributed to this landslide, because you look at the river bursting its banks. That is how you get to such situations. And of course, they are also looking at the aftermath of the landslides that could actually contribute a lot in terms of economic losses to rebuild the area, but also professionally, they want to bring in mental health professions, especially looking at how to help people that have been devastated. Now, we have not looked at more of the cases, especially from the government side, concerned about people's mental health after such an event. So I think Peru is taking a big step into how to address most of these extreme weather events. people have lost their homes, they have lost their loved ones. Usually you have government officials coming in to offer support, to offer money, but the post-traumatic events after that, the mental well-being of people, and this is why government has so far sent doctors to make sure that people are attended to in terms of mental health. And of course, you also have the press that has been on ground and covering all these events, making sure that people are able to know exactly what is happening, even for the areas, because the rains are still continuing, meaning that we could have other events over there, and which is why they're saying that people should be able to know and be aware that they can easily evacuate from these places and look at how to get safe in the face of most of these extreme weather events related to climate variability as well. Away from that, we want to take a look at Uganda right now. We'll be tapping from a satellite, indicating mostly clear skies across northern Uganda. That is the same situation for the eastern side of the country. We're starting off quite dry right there, and that is indicated by the open darker colors right there, meaning that we're having mostly sunny conditions. That is all the way up to the northwestern part of the country. Areas of Arua, we're looking at Gulu, Apache, also Midwestern Uganda, Hoima, Masindi. That is where we're looking at most of those sunny conditions for this morning. But we're also likely to have a few rains joining in. That is where we're looking at a rainy system that is starting to develop over the Lake Victoria area. We're looking at that system in the red to orange colors right there into green. That is the one that is again headed westward. So most likely we'll be having that towards the western area of Lake Victoria. We could be looking at rains later on across places of Masaka. Now that could also extend all the way towards the central area, meaning that we might be looking at rains also extending all the way up to areas of Kampala, Entebbe. We could be looking at Wakiso later on as the day continues. We also have a few clouds that are starting to develop towards areas of Mubende. That is indicated by white colors right there on the map, and that is where we also expect that we might be having a little bit of rains later as the day progresses. Otherwise, the rest of the country seems to be dealing with mostly in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions for this morning. We'll be also going ahead to take a look at the forecast that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, and also look at those numbers in terms of temperatures. The western side of Lake Victoria, we are forecasting isolated showers that is starting off at a pleasant 26 degrees. We're also likely to have, that is a mix of clouds and sunshine for southwestern Uganda, across Mbarara, Ibanda, Oshenyi and Rubirizi. We are forecasting that temperatures will be quite low at 26 degrees. Also might be looking at rains later in the day. Across Mbale, Budu, Dabuko and Sironko, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine. Quite a warm morning for you. That will be starting at 27 degrees Celsius. Now the eastern side of Lake Victoria, we're looking at Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja. We'll be having rains that will come in a bit later as we head towards the afternoon, also starting off warm at 28 degrees. Now eastern Uganda, mostly a sunny morning over there across Soroti, Katakwi, Moria. We're looking at Kumi, also starting off hot. Temperatures are already at 30 forecast for this morning. Could be looking at the lower 30s again later in the afternoon as we continue with similar weather even then. We're looking at the eastern side of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Burudi and Nakaseke. We're likely to have isolated rains. Those will be across several places, but in smaller quantities. We also expect that temperatures will be quite warm at 29 degrees for this morning. The central part of northern Uganda, Ujumani, Gulu, Kitgum and Padel, we're looking at mostly a sunny morning for you. We'll have intervals of cloudy conditions later in the afternoon, but also starting off hot at 30 degrees. We could be looking at also temperatures going in the lower 30s later in the afternoon due to a continuation of mostly sunny weather. The central part of Lake Victoria Basin, we're looking at Mukono, Kampala, we're looking at Entebbe as well as Wakiso. We'll have rains in the forecast that will be coming in also later as we head towards the afternoon, and notably this is what Philomena was talking about, like the rains have had a trend, especially for the central part of Lake Victoria Basin, where you do have those coming in mid-morning towards afternoon, most of them actually coming in during the afternoon for those areas close to Lake Victoria. So we do have that trend for this time of the year as we look at most of these rains being occasional. It's not a rainy season, but they are locally influenced, and that's when you have systems that are building up. Same situation also for the rains that we have right now across the southern parts of Uganda. Most of those are coming in locally influenced, and we could be looking at most of that picking up later, that is in the late February as we head to the March to May 1st rainy season across Uganda. We'll be giving more details on that forecast as to when it does come out. Well, that is it in terms of weather updates for this morning. Later on, we'll also be looking at Good Morning Uganda agenda, and later than that, we'll be going into sports highlights. My name is Mollen Kenyena. I'll leave you at that and wishing you a wonderful day.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand. That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak low.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
Was brought to you by Gatawo with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Get the most affordable 4G smartphone in Uganda from Airtel. Now heavily discounted from 250,000 shillings to 150,000 shillings only. Yes, 150,000 shillings only to keep you connected to your loved ones.
Dial *175*94# to activate free 1 GB instantly and 100% double data on all weekly and monthly bundles for 3 months. Get one today while stock lasts from the nearest Airtel shop. With Airtel, the smartphone network.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Six minutes past 8 a.m. Welcome to GMU Agenda here on Good Morning Uganda. And of course, we get to talk about issues that are of great importance to you as a citizen. And also, you just need to be in the know. And one of the greatest issues we are talking about, and we are yet to talk about is, of course, education. We have seen for the last couple of days, weeks, months, changes happening in the education system, starting right from the curriculum. We're looking at a more practical curriculum, curriculum that really trains the students to ensure that they become more of problem solvers, to improve their critical thinking skills, to mention but a few. And this morning we are looking at achieving a competent based curriculum. And of course this is again in line to the news that we did talk about earlier on in the morning, in the wee hours, of how we would be, or we are expecting, the O-level results of 2022 to be coming out tomorrow. And just last week, we had Primary 7, the PLE results, the Primary Leaving Examinations for 2022 coming in. We did see the performance, a few improvements here and there, but of course, there's still issues that we have to talk about, and it wouldn't come as a surprise that we'll be talking about them when it comes to the curriculum that we are that we are following in these our schools, primary level or level A level. Is it a competent curriculum? Does this put children or our children at a very competitive level? Does it add something? Is there advancement from this curriculum? All of that we'll be discussing between myself, of course, actually amongst the three of us, Philomena, Mastiko, and Felix Nkunda, and our special guest this morning, Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono. We're very happy to have you here, sir.
You're most welcome. It's a pleasure being with you, and of course, this guy, okay. And Felix.
So yes, our discussion looking at a competent best curriculum. By the way, you can let us know, get into Twitter, #UBCGMU. Do you think our curriculum is competent enough, or what can we do to make sure that we achieve 100% competent best curriculum here in Uganda? All of our results are coming out tomorrow, Robert and Felix. I don't know if you have any candidate that sat their UCE papers last year.
Senior parent.
Senior parent?
Senior parent.
You don't have, yourself you don't have?
Well, of course there could be many people around our family circles who did so.
Well, a total of 349,455 candidates from 3,703 examination centers registered to write the UCE examinations last year. And on the total number of candidates, 175,923, representing 50.3%, were male candidates, whereas 173,522, representing about 49.7%, were female. And actually, statistics shared by UNEB indicate that 114,200, representing about 32.7% of the total candidature, were funded under Universal Secondary Education Program, and the fees defaulters, according to NEB, will not access their results through the normal scheme, the short message service we always do. So there is also that to be considered as a parent and also as a student. But getting back to our curriculum, maybe I'll just ask as plain as it is, maybe starting off with you, Robert. Are you happy with our curriculum that we are following? And looking at the primary level curriculum, we're also looking at the O-level curriculum, especially considering the new changes that have been incorporated in it.
Well, thank you, Mastiko. But you began with the results that are coming out tomorrow, and I must say it's very unfortunate that these are people who have not enjoyed the competence-based curriculum. Now, when we talk about competence-based curriculum, the CBC, as defined by the Ministry of Education, this focuses on enabling learners graduate with skills and competences needed in today's society. Furthermore, the CBC targeted aiding in achievement of Sustainable Development Goal number 4, ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting long life learning opportunities for all. Now, it was in February 2020 when Ministry of Education and Sports in Uganda came up with the CBC, the Competent Best Curriculum. Now remember, 2021, 2020 was a time of COVID-19, isn't it?
Yes.
2020, 2021, even I think 2022 somehow. So this is a time when these students were not going to school because of COVID-19. And this lower secondary curriculum that was targeting on ensuring that students have these life skills was not rolled out effectively. So these results you're expecting tomorrow, they have not even been assessed on competency-based. So there was COVID, government did some training of teachers, trainers of trainers, but that didn't also go well. Then also, there's so much that is needed for the competence-based curriculum that I find ourselves, we may find a very big challenge. I just want to take you back when sciences were made compulsory. You know, you find that there were children, and there are children in this country, who maybe not even have a lab. They're doing sciences.
Yes.
So once upon a time, the teacher goes and picks a microscope, brings and shows them. A Bunsen burner, the cheap, the commonest. I remember seeing one used to be called Bunsen burners. I don't know how they call them now. So these children get to see these. Actually, maybe the last 3 weeks to exams.
Yes.
Or they discuss with a school that has a laboratory, then they are taken there. So the competence-based curriculum has challenges that what is needed to bring out this child with life sustaining skills may not be available for many schools. Look, we are looking at woodwork, metalwork, home economics, agriculture, skills that when a person stops at senior 4, Philo, and my brother here, that child can do something that can enable them survive. This is what the ministry is looking at. What are those skills you're imparting in our children that even when they are done or they drop out at a certain level, they're not going to be like they spent 7 years in school and it was learning, but they couldn't sustain themselves. They spent 4 years of O level and they couldn't sustain themselves. So, our curriculum had what it was lacking. And I'm happy that the ministry 2020 February came up and said, this is the new way. But there are so many challenges to effectively implement these changes. And I'm kind of scared that we are still going to have these imbalances. Let me give you an example. When you look at best schools producing best science students, because studying science is not like studying history, you know?
Yes.
If you have to dissect a frog, you must have the dissecting kit.
The frog itself.
You must have the frog. The frog is common.
It can't be theory.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't just elaborate. This is a frog. Frogs are everywhere.
Well, they're seasonal. I will tell you back.
I don't know much about frogs apart from those I dissected.
The day we had to do those practicals, man.
Frogs became scarce.
I'll tell you, my school, they actually asked us
you
to
look
get
for a cockroach, and then that's when you know that a cockroach is something you look for. Those, you remember, I don't know anyway, probably you guys didn't get to that level, but we should, like those white
I remember
rats.
the red man, we used to breed them at school. They were there, very many, those white with red eyes. So they were, you would just pick and then, but what I'm saying is, if you look at the difference, and Felix and Philo, you all know this, best performing schools in arts, in sciences in Uganda. Do you see rural schools? Unless they are church founded, those are founded on the Catholic, because someone will tell you, Nambiyango does very well, Ntale, those, but what are the schools you're talking about? Now, when it comes to competence-based, and this is creating the gap, that a person may have the brains to do sciences, but because they don't have what it takes to teach them effectively, they may not pass the sciences. They don't have what it takes. Now, with competence-based curriculum, government schools and those church-founded will still remain giants. You get it? But these private schools, because our ministry, when it comes to licensing schools, I'm not sure of the yardsticks. But today we find schools that our days when we were in school, there will never be schools. I don't know what happened. When we were in school, the schools I see today licensed as education institutions would never qualify. I don't know what changed. Because for the schools I grew up seeing, you had to have a football pitch. You had a garden or a farm, you know. You had classroom blocks that were meaningful, even had streams. Some even had teachers' quarters. Today, a person dies, the kids rent out their home, tomorrow it is a school. How is competency based? Today you move in Kampala, down is a supermarket, the next floor is something else, the rest is a school. Now, this competence is not about having a chalkboard and something and you draw. How are you going to teach someone, for example, agriculture? I wonder, someone was telling me that Africa, we are funny. We made English compulsory and we made agriculture option. Now, we are coming back to saying these are tools. So, are we going to delicense such schools? Or we are going again to say, but there are ways you can still do this. Maybe once in a while, these children, you find a farm they can go to. You get it, Philo?
Yes.
There are ways, somehow, maybe in this way, you find a workshop where these people can do this. So I still get worried that we know our problem, we have a solution to this curriculum, because if well implemented, a child will leave senior 4 when they can survive, even if they don't continue.
Okay. Well, so basically we're looking at, because the pedagogy of this whole curriculum is to ensure that there are more practical skills, but we're looking at the idea vis-a-vis the resources, the inadequacy of the resources. But Felix, do you think we have given this priority, especially what I worry for are the schools in the rural areas? Because yes, we do have UPE, we do have USE, and again, usually the schools in the rural areas are the ones that are really at the lowest on the radar. At the end of the day, it still affects them. Are we giving this top priority, especially for these schools? For the schools, is this idealistic, especially for schools in the rural areas, looking at the settings, the resources, the teachers, everything put into consideration?
Well, if you want to take an approach that causes comparison between rural and urban centered learning for us to answer competence, probably we also have to qualify competence. What qualifies to be competence-based? Robert did touch it as well, but I'll just shed a bit of light to the same. When you bring competence, has characteristics for us to put before to qualify whatever we say, whether it qualifies to be under a competence-based curriculum or not. One, education must be ushering learners into purposeful competition. That could be academic, okay? That could be in terms of examination. That could be in terms of how they execute whatever they have learned, and so on and so forth. A competitive-based curriculum in terms of execution and whatever learners learn. Two, a knowledge-based curriculum that puts the learners in position to acquire knowledge about particular subject matters throughout the processes or periods. Now those are the yardsticks we are going to use for us to measure whether or not we have a competent-based, competitive, knowledge-based, and later on skill appreciation. Do our children, either rural or urban, are they competitive in how they execute work? Some of us who studied, as Robert would want to say, I don't even know why he says that. Because I studied in 93, I was in P1.
In 1993?
Yes.
I don't know where it was then, but...
Seriously, Philo?
Yes.
No, I questioned you. But anyway, but why I bring that out, here in Shimoni, one of the things, trying to break down the aspect of competitiveness, there are aspects that bring to life useful or healthy competition for learners. One, things like time management. Do we see that as a character of our learners? Looking at it from the angle of learners, look at it in the realities of life. And those are the true characteristics of competitiveness, academic competitiveness, let alone life competitiveness. Time. Keeping time, value of time. Two, presentation. How do learners present? And this is in relation to what she asked. Look at rural and urban learners. Presentation in terms of outlook, outspoken, in terms of outlook and definitely what they have. Do we have smart students? Remember when they used to beat us for tucking in small things? And those were part of the competitiveness.
Yes.
That for us to produce a full packaged student, you can be the brightest in class, but the most lousy on compound. You've seen this.
Usually it was the case.
You have seen the scientists have been victims of this. Very smart guy doesn't bathe. Competitiveness, competence. That on top of you being smart, do you keep time? Are you presentable? Do you know the relevance of being friends with water? And this is now for us putting this so-called competent-based curriculum. Because it is a value-based curriculum. And this is our argument, adding to what Robert said, that what do learners become going through this curriculum? What kind of result do we get? We have looked at the competence aspect. Come to the presentation. Come to skills. You'll catch all the rats in the world, but because you're not being taught to go and cure rats. That's not the reason why they give you rats. You must use that because they have probably a similar body structure and reproduction and vein running to a human being. But how do you turn your cutting of these many rats in schools into saving lives? Skill-based. When you go and study literature, how does that become a skill for survival? There are two things we need to answer when we're talking about this competent-based education. How do our learners transit from the point of being learners to solution-aided citizens?
Or problem solvers.
Absolutely. And I've heard the president constantly talk about job creators.
Not job seekers.
That's what a competent-based curriculum should answer. As you're learning English, how is that a tool for you to change lives of others? For you, how is that a solution to the many problems of Uganda? Now, as we go and examine point by point, it will let us also know what is relevant as a taught skill, as a taught subject. We shall go on ticking that when I learn history, how can I turn that history into a survival skill? Can you survive because you know a lot of history about Napoleon and Bismarck?
In this new lower secondary curriculum, some subjects were removed and some kind of merged.
Some don't qualify as survival, means of survival. And it's a question we can all put to ourselves. How do you survive as a best? Because you get an A, I don't know if they get D1 or A in history, having crammed what Napoleon did, Marie Antoinette, Bismarck, just to mention, but
knowing that James discovered the source of them.
How does that become, how do you trigger that to become a survival aspect of your life? I don't know if we get this whole thing of competent best. We are trying to cure a problem by use of education. When you learn the geography of Canada, Germany, South Africa, Simani, the Rift Valley in Kenya, how do you turn that into a survival aspect of your life? Competent-based curriculum. That we must be able to transit. These are the things that we teach our children as a tool of survival. How about we reap? And this has been our argument and we won't stop.
Yes.
He talked about things like woodwork. Me, when I was in Liberty, I don't know if they still teach it. There was woodwork.
Yes.
There was architectural drawing as early as S1.
That was it is called
technical drawing.
Technical
yes,
drawing.
TD. We had agriculture. I remember even the lady was called Narongo. Agriculture. The Rantana Kamaras. I remember the things we learned.
Yeah, I remember that also at my O-level at Nagalama. Take it to the garden.
Yes, you have had somewhere down near the quarters and the pitch.
Trust me, I learned a lot in my agriculture classes. He gave you a good example. Which is a bigger solution? Having agriculture a compulsory subject or English? Because do I need to know English to sell cassava? Let's be honest.
Do you need English to know what kind of fertilizer
to survival skill? That
Look at our brothers and sisters, the Chinese. How far they have developed, but you either learn their language or you mingle around.
Because we are looking at survival. Does English help you survive? Okay. For the Philomenas who are on TV, the Kirabos, who love to be like dressed like capitalists.
Well, looking at competence-based curriculum, how can we ensure that we achieve this? But while we are at it, I feel like there is a category of students that we usually leave out when it comes to the students of the special needs children or students. I'll give you an example. According to UNEP, the number increased to about 2,436 learners with special needs last year, with of course different complications, those with visual and hearing impairments, and even those that were physically handicapped. Those that are physically handicapped and dyslexic. But we are having a number of challenges. While we are looking at a competent-based curriculum, how do we incorporate these people in? Why? Challenges such as specialists in sign languages, transcribes, or even amanuenses to aid these people. In fact, when you look at the current assessment that we do, the current assessment system, which again holds them to the same standard as their able-bodied people, I mean, you're looking at a child who is blind or a child who has hearing impairment. How do you, how do you assess this person the same way you assess an able-bodied person? You're giving them the same time. In fact, these are some of the challenges they were talking about as to why their performance was not exactly good. If you remember very well, Parliament did even call out the Ministry of Education.
None of them that 37 got a first grade.
They asked them, they were calling them out and asking, why is the performance of the children with special needs very appalling? I mean, we are looking at improvement with these other normal students, but it's not fair. So how do we balance out this curriculum to be competent enough even for these students in this other category?
In Uganda there is a saying, that if something is small.
No, you need to repeat that. I didn't get it. Okay.
Why am I saying so? Because I feel we lack honesty in some of these things. One, the fact that we think that children with special needs can study together with their comrades is something I find that I think we need to cut something differently. Let me tell you, you're having children without any disability, without any special need, performing very funny. You know? We are still struggling with that education. Now, I find it a bit very funny to think that I've seen people that are very impaired, they can't see, going to schools with others. So I think the ministry and the parliament, what they have to do is, how do we ensure that we have more specific institutions that handle children with special needs? Then how do we ensure we have more teachers trained to handle children with special needs? Because you will find that a number of teachers in the teacher training colleges do not train to handle children with special needs. I was at, Mango School for the Deaf or something like that. And this is what I found there. Excuse me. This is what I found there. That it is very disturbing that you will find that these children don't have the right tutors. When we go to CTUNEB, how do we look at these children? They'll tell you they add them 20 or 45 minutes. But you see, even the learning gadgets are not there. So we must first of all prioritize them. And I saw members of parliament complaining how come out of the 2,000, that number you've mentioned, not even one had a first grade.
There was no first
grade for primary 7 amongst them. But I think calling the ministry officials to come and explain wasn't the situation. The situation was, how do we allocate resources? Let me tell you, the equipment, the aiding gadgets they use are very expensive.
But you mean we can't afford this?
Very expensive.
But do you mean to say they are more expensive than the cars of members of parliament?
But we've not allocated resources there.
So it's not about expense. Don't even bring that
I don't think
I'm saying, where have I said they're expensive?
Yes.
That to think that they can be given by the parents. No? They need government assistance. For example, that bread you see them use when they are reading. They are reading material if someone can't see. The earring gadgets if someone needs them, you know. These, we may not rely on their parents. And even I've listened to a number of stories of these children. There are some fathers who say, Oyosichi, for us in our lineage. So you find that these children have a lot of challenges, even with who is willing to help them. A man wakes up and says, that is in our family, from great judges. No, that is not ours. And then the mother is suffering. She works in. So government must look at funding and prioritizing. Otherwise, we may not have the two compete.
You know, if you may let me add to that. I think as a country, we are losing a lot of untapped talent when we talk about, and I talk about this disability, people who are, I don't even want to call them disabled, but people who have challenges. Physically or even mentally. Could be psychological. All these challenges, they manifest differently. As a teacher or person who has taught for quite a time now, I have learned that we are losing a lot if we don't tap into the potentials that come with these people you call the special needs. Let me use, actually that's the best word, as Philo said. We are losing a lot. We are losing a number of doctors, a number of people. We are losing because we have not focused on bringing the best out of them. The talent we are losing. But do you know why? Because we have some people in different dockets who are not intentional about national development. They're not intentional. Because, and they have said it, when you call the minister to explain, how is that a solution? But who doesn't know the needs?
Maybe it could be the start. It could be the beginning. You identify the problem.
And for me, I have a problem.
Yes.
You see, leaders in this country want to be official about everything.
And diplomatic.
Diplomacy.
Yes.
That diplomacy. Kirabo, come and tell me. Philomena, come and tell us. Felix, you saw him walking how? Then there's a commission for another 3 months. Come on, cut us some slack.
Create a committee specifically to deal with that. The funds going to that committee.
One of the problems third world countries face is that diplomacy. And that is self-massaged diplomacy. Irrelevant. Yet the problem is before our eyes. Ekyattu omwami twakiraba naye fenna twasirika. Disabled people or special needs people need special attention, as their calling is. Now you want also,
there should be a priority.
Have you gone to these schools? You've said you are in Mengo. There's that one next to Professor Kayiwa. There's one there. There's another one I think in Chideka. Yes. There's even one where these girls were burnt fire. You saw. Have we got a report for that? So we must, as I've told you, the leadership must just be intentional.
Because what's so hard in identifying that we actually need to get transcribers for these students? What's so hard to do that?
At the point of being a leader of an institution like that, you know.
Yes. I mean, it's a
and
given.
you directly so affected people Because you have the powers. There's some positions in this country where you have the power to even go there yourself and find out. But the biggest challenge, Robert said, is funding. Let's not even shy about. It is about the funds. When you go to check how much money is allocated to the special needs people, we have affirmative action in the Constitution. And one of them that is most realized is the women being in parliament. And when you talk about affirmative action, in Uganda, you only have women. Women in parliament, Simaye Kumuruka on LC3. But the affirmative action must talk about relevantly and equally about these special needs people, the groups.
There are very many other people aside from the women.
Let me give you an example. Sadly, in COVID times, the president would come and speak. These people, most of them were beaten by police officers, abuse of curfew hours. Some of them wouldn't act. I remember we did a couple of shows here on Good Morning Uganda, trying to sensitize how to assist. Who's assisting these people? For example, when you go to the roads, and in all sectors, you may not even talk about, let's talk about in roads.
Even what we have as policies,
where do they cross?
For example, there are certain things that we have as policy. For example, they should, buildings should be accessible, you should have lifts, you should have special pathways for them and all that. But implementation,
for example, when they study, do we have a policy as government in terms of employment?
Yes, there is one. Every employment in terms of taxation, if you employ about 5 and above.
Who has told you I failed to pay my taxes?
So they're trying to entice you.
No, I'm asking
to have more of them
you say, when I employ a disabled or special needs person, you talk about tax. Who has told you I failed to pay taxes?
How do you know? It's a benefit.
Who told you? What makes you think that a tax incentive is a cure to answering challenges of special needs people? Because not every institution is struggling with taxes. If it was a general problem, that would be a good one. But that's so much on the sideline. Let's start with government as the biggest employer. How many special needs people is government employing?
Yes.
In its capacity. Let them answer that. These ones want to support to study. Where are they going to work?
After.
The blind, the deaf, the disabled in terms of physical, mental, psychological. Where are they going to work? Now we want to help them study. That's good. To do what? That means we need to have a policy, a law that fixes them into the job world.
There must be continuity right from the education level.
It's not enough for us to invest in the process, not in the aftermath of the process. We need to have these open discussions.
Well, there is feedback coming in from one viewer here who is saying, good morning. A competent-based curriculum will only be achieved in Uganda unless the following happens. Number one, strict regulations on rampant mushrooming schools, in every corner to produce quality graduates, and all schools must meet the requirements for a competent-based curriculum. Number three, the Education Ministry should also try to avoid scrapping certain subjects off and introducing others without doing a pilot curriculum. And the student-teacher ratio doesn't favor the competent-based curriculum. He mentions some of these things. You see, I really like the idea of having a whole pilot curriculum, but also I have noticed that when it comes to Ugandan entities, Ugandan bodies, ministries, we get stuck at a certain point. There is no progress. We usually do this and then the pilot happens for I do not know how long. I don't know what the ultimate time should be.
Then we come up with a report, then we believe the findings of the report are going to help us implement.
And then we are stuck there for a while, we shelve the report.
And of course, also this being a challenge, you know, special needs, why it's a challenge, even for competence-based, is we've commercialized education, Philo. That now a person sets up a school with the aim of making money. Now, certain things must be, and Felix usually says it, that certain things must be deliberate effort by government. When you talk about special needs schools, for example, the Salama School for the Blind, where you have, I think it's called Francis Chinubi. This was a person who had been in Nudipu as chairperson of the Uganda National Union for Disabled Persons. So you find he got contacts and he began something like an NGO, you know, with support. But it will be very hard for an individual business person to say, me set up a school for children with special needs. Because he knows, one, there may not be very many. Two, speaking reality, there's still stigmatization. Many of these children are hidden even. You go to a home and you think they have 4 children, yet there are 5, there is one you're not able to see. So, how many of the parents will say we must educate them? Now, when it comes to competence-based, this school will require more expenses
of course
for you to set it up for these children compared to their colleagues who don't have these challenges. So that is why you find that even one interest in himself, and if you're to do that, you require to charge more money, isn't it? Yet, the stigmatization and the history of these children, the parent will not say, if I have 4 children, and the rest I may spend maybe an M on their learning a term each. For the special needs and competence-based, if it's coming, you have to spend about 1.7. The parent may not look at this as a priority. So that's why we say that certain things must be government entirely and prioritized.
No, but Robert,
well,
Philo, just a quick one. With all honesty and fairness, why would a special needs child pay money to study? Now let's lose the dilly-dallying and massaging of what, and you may want to butter coats, but why? In all fairness, is in a country that is celebrating how many years of independence, and you all over many celebration government, why would if a constitution recognizes affirmative action and talks about the special needs people, why would the special needs child pay school fees? That would be a problem for a family. That for us to educate our blind child, we have to tussle with all these things. Why? Those are the small things governments do for citizens. Because what is the ratio? Out of 10 kids, how many blind kids you have? Probably 1 or none. The numbers are still small, we are lucky. And this kudos to the president because of some of the things he did earlier when you talk about the polio immunization, all these other things that have helped kids grow. But honestly, why wouldn't Uganda cater for these numbers in terms of education and give them something good? The private sector is not even needed in this case because it may not have the skills, the gadgets, and the personnel to do this. I think it's a discussion we may have to open in Parliament, that as we cater and want to go into a competence-based curriculum, we need to cater for people with disabilities or special needs people as government entirely. Lastly, about this Philomena, let's say, I have seen people build buildings, of course. Now, they don't put on runways, but then they put in toilets for disabled people. Almost every big building in town has, that's one thing they crammed. I don't know if it's either from the market or what. But on the building, there is no policy that is inclusive about the special needs people. That's what I'm saying. For us to make some of these, what you call competence-based, we also look at the end of the tail. If we can have a law that gives mandate, we can start with government institutions. The procurement and disposal, you must, out of the process, you must have someone. In that profession, you don't have to bring a farmer because they are special needs. But in that profession, how about we push institutions to employ these people? Because they may not be able to start work because of their disabilities.
Yes.
So there's a lot that desires to be done in terms of a competent-based curriculum, as we were saying earlier. But we are starting, there's been evidences of need to start. But it is slow because I feel there's lack of enough research, but also the fear to invest in education sector. I think the country is fearing to invest massively. Probably they have not seen results. Probably the learning people are being a problem.
You talk about
so they're the ones. the educated are being a problem to government. So there's fear, but they need to invest greatly.
Anyway,
in
as
sector.
you talk about on the issue of research, of course, as we are concluding this, the Equal Opportunities Commission has asked the government through the Education Ministry to actually be able to come out and map the schools that have learners with disabilities, saying that there is inadequate data to guide planning and budgeting for them. I'm very saddened by this, but I'm also happy that we are looking at it now. I'm just wondering why it took us long. But anyway, the issue has been brought to the table, so I guess it's a reason for celebration. And according to the chairperson, there is need to find that on teachers who can also ably handle children with these disabilities. And of course, it starts from the information. My only prayer is that this process is done ASAP, immediately. We don't actually drag on that, and we need to start, not just talk about it and shelf it, because, well, the reputation really follows us. That's the end of today's discussion. We do have Ruben Mpima Chirango coming in with more sports updates from the world, from that world. And of course, we do have GMU Extra queued up right after this. We will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful Wednesday and a very productive day ahead. I am Philomena Mastiko. Good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Happiness comes to us in many places.